200,000 jars of jam. Let that number sink in for a moment, because it represents one of the most spectacular retail disasters Hollywood has ever witnessed. A single website glitch, discovered by eagle-eyed Reddit users of all people, has blown the lid off what Meghan Markle and her team have been desperately trying to hide. Her American Riviera Orchard lifestyle brand, the venture that was supposed to prove she could conquer the business world on her own terms, has been exposed as a warehouse nightmare of epic proportions. We are not talking about a few boxes of unsold merchandise tucked away in some corner. We are talking about 2 entire storage rooms at Netflix's Hollywood campus, packed floor to ceiling with products that nobody wants to buy. The visual alone is absolutely devastating for someone who has built her entire post-royal identity around being a tastemaker, a trendsetter, a woman whose mere endorsement was supposed to send products flying off shelves. Sources describe Netflix employees literally walking through these overflowing rooms and helping themselves to 10 products at a time for free, because the company has given up on actually selling them. They cannot pay people to take this stuff off their hands fast enough. The staff are treating it like a company garage sale, grabbing candles and jam jars and whatever else they can carry, just to clear some space. And folks, this is not just about jam. When you add up all the exposed inventory numbers, you get approximately 650,000 unsold items rotting away in corporate storage. That is not a business hiccup. That is not a soft launch that needs a little more marketing push. That is a categorical, undeniable, utterly embarrassing failure of a lifestyle empire that was supposed to rival Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow. Instead, it has become the most expensive giveaway program in Netflix history, with employees treating Meghan's aspirational luxury goods like free samples at Costco. The irony here is absolutely staggering when you consider the image Meghan has tried so hard to cultivate. This is a woman who positions herself as having impeccable taste, who wants us to believe that everything she touches turns to gold, that her judgment is so refined that we should pay premium prices just to own a piece of her carefully curated lifestyle. Instead, the evidence suggests that consumers have looked at what she is selling, looked at the prices she is charging, and decided they would rather keep their money. The market has spoken, and it has said a resounding no thank you. But the inventory numbers are just the beginning of this business catastrophe, and what Page 6 has uncovered about Netflix's storage situation reveals the true scale of the disaster. The explosive report from Page 6 paints a picture so embarrassing that even the most skilled public relations team would struggle to spin it. According to multiple sources, Netflix employees at both the Icon Tower and Epic building on the company's Hollywood campus have been helping themselves to free products from storage rooms overflowing with as-ever merchandise. We are talking about hundreds of workers walking past shelves stacked with unsold jam, unwanted candles, and ignored honey jars, grabbing whatever they feel like taking because their employer has essentially turned a business partnership into a charity donation center. Let us be brutally honest about what this means. This is not how successful product launches work. This is not what happens when a celebrity brand catches fire with consumers. When products actually sell, warehouses empty out, inventory moves, reorders come in. The fact that Netflix has resorted to giving away merchandise to its own staff tells you everything you need to know about the market demand for Meghan's lifestyle empire. There is none. The demand does not exist outside of her imagination and her press releases. The contradiction between reality and the official narrative is absolutely breathtaking. Meghan's team has repeatedly claimed that products are flying off the shelves, that demand is through the roof, that the American Riviera Orchard brand is connecting with consumers in meaningful ways. Yet here we have warehouse workers essentially being begged to take free stuff home because the storage rooms cannot hold any more inventory. One insider described the scene as almost comical, watching employees fill their arms with products that were supposed to make Meghan a mogul. Allow me to translate that corporate politeness for you. It is a damn embarrassment. Sources close to Meghan have now pivoted to claiming that the massive stockpile was intentionally accumulated for promotional use. The story is that these 650,000 items were always meant to be given away, that this is just smart marketing strategy, that free samples are how you build brand awareness. But the timing of this explanation makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You do not quietly stockpile enough products to fill multiple warehouse rooms and then stay silent about your generous promotional plans until after Reddit users expose your inventory numbers. That is not strategy. That is damage control. When Page 6 reached out to both Netflix and Meghan's representatives for comment, they were met with silence. Complete, deafening silence. And that silence speaks volumes about the situation. If there were a reasonable explanation, if this really were all part of some master marketing plan, you can bet Meghan's notoriously aggressive public relations team would have been shouting it from the rooftops. Instead, they have gone quiet, presumably huddled in crisis management mode, trying to figure out how to make this disaster look like a victory. But the website glitch that started this scandal revealed numbers that will make your jaw drop, and the technical breakdown of the exposure is even more damning than the headlines suggest. The discovery happened in the most unglamorous way possible, through Reddit users who decided to test the limits of Meghan's online shopping cart system. What they found has now become legendary in the celebrity business disaster Hall of Fame. By attempting to add enormous quantities of products to their carts, these internet detectives were able to expose just how much inventory was sitting unsold in the American Riviera orchard system. The glitch essentially revealed the entire stock count, and the numbers are absolutely devastating for anyone hoping to present this venture as a success. 200,000 jars of jam. Let that sink in for a moment. That is not a typo. 200,000 jars of fruit spread that someone somewhere thought consumers would eagerly purchase at luxury prices. But wait, there is more. 30,000 jars of honey sitting alongside the jam, waiting for buyers who have clearly decided to get their sweeteners elsewhere. 90,000 candles, presumably meant to fill homes with the essence of Meghan's refined taste, instead filling warehouse shelves with the essence of failure. And 80,000 tins of flour sprinkles, which have earned the charming nickname Death Flowers among critics who question both their appearance and their purpose. The wine situation is particularly brutal. 70,000 bottles of alcohol, including black rosé and brut sparkling wine, are reportedly collecting dust in storage. These are perishable goods with actual expiration dates, products that lose value the longer they sit unsold. Unlike a candle that can technically wait years for a buyer, wine has a window, and that window is closing while Meghan's bottles gather dust alongside her other merchandise. The waste here is not just financial. It is almost offensive when you consider how many people struggle to afford basic necessities. When you total everything up, you get approximately 650,000 unsold items. 650,000. That number should haunt whatever business advisor approved this level of production. In the retail world, you start small, you test the market, you gauge demand before committing to massive inventory orders. What you do not do is manufacture enough products to supply a small country and then hope for the best. This is Business 101, and someone clearly skipped that class. The exposure has turned Meghan's lifestyle brand into a punchline across social media, with users mocking everything from the product selection to the astronomical prices to the sheer hubris of thinking consumers would line up for jar after jar of celebrity jam. One commenter summarized it perfectly, saying they ordered enough inventory to supply all of California and only California's employees are taking it home for free. That is the level of ridicule this situation has generated. But what is even more embarrassing is how Meghan's team tried to spin this disaster, and their explanation requires some truly impressive mental gymnastics to believe. The damage control efforts that followed the inventory exposure have been almost as entertaining as the scandal itself. Sources close to Meghan immediately began pushing a narrative that the massive stockpile was by design, that this was all part of a carefully planned strategy for international expansion. According to this version of events, the 650,000 items sitting in Netflix warehouses are not evidence of catastrophic overproduction. They are forward-thinking investments in a global brand launch that will eventually conquer markets around the world. Allow me to translate this spin into plain English. They got caught with their pants down and are now pretending they meant to do that all along. The international expansion excuse falls apart under even the slightest scrutiny. In the business world, you do not expand internationally when you cannot sell domestically. That is not how successful brands operate. That is how brands that are bleeding money desperately try to find new suckers in different countries after their home market has rejected them. Look at any genuinely successful lifestyle brand and you will see a consistent pattern. Apple conquered America before taking over the world. Amazon dominated domestic markets before expanding globally. Gwyneth Paltrow built Goop into a household name in the United States before opening pop-up shops in London. The idea that you would stockpile hundreds of thousands of unsold items while planning international expansion is so backwards that it would be laughable if it were not so transparently desperate. You cannot give your products away to Netflix employees and simultaneously claim you are preparing for global domination. The most insulting part of the spin campaign is the claim that products are literally flying off the shelf. Those exact words came from sources close to Meghan, apparently with straight faces and zero self-awareness. Flying off the shelf. Meanwhile, warehouse workers are grabbing 10 items at a time for free because there is nowhere left to put the merchandise. The shelf in question must be the size of an aircraft hangar if it can hold 650,000 items that are supposedly selling like hotcakes. This is gaslighting of the highest order, and it assumes that consumers are too stupid to put two and two together. Industry analysts have been quick to point out the disconnect between Meghan's public relations narrative and business reality. One retail expert noted that claiming massive inventory is strategic when you cannot move product is like claiming you meant to fail your exam because you are actually studying for a different test. The logic simply does not track. Another source familiar with the situation described the spin attempts as almost insulting to anyone who understands how retail actually works. And they are absolutely right. But the pricing strategy reveals exactly why consumers are running in the opposite direction, and the numbers here are genuinely shocking. If you want to understand why 650,000 products are sitting unsold in warehouses, you need look no further than the price tags attached to them. The Valentine's Day package that Meghan's team promoted as a romantic gift option carried a jaw-dropping price point of $185. For that nearly $200 investment, which climbs even higher once you add shipping, consumers received jam, candles, tea, and flower sprinkles. Let me repeat that. Nearly $200 for jam, candles, tea, and sprinkles. Not gold-plated jam. Not candles made from rare Tibetan yak wax. Regular lifestyle products with a celebrity name attached. The individual product pricing tells an even more damning story. These are items positioned at price points that put them well beyond the reach of average consumers, yet they lack the exclusivity, craftsmanship, or brand heritage that typically justifies luxury pricing. When you charge luxury prices, you better deliver luxury quality and luxury prestige. What Meghan has delivered instead is mall-quality merchandise at department store markups, all while expecting consumers to pay a substantial Duchess tax simply because her name is on the label. The comparison to competitors is absolutely brutal. King Charles himself sells jam through his Highgrove estate, and his products come in at a fraction of what Meghan charges. Let that irony sink in for a moment. The actual King of England, selling jam from his actual royal estate, undercuts the prices of his American daughter-in-law's lifestyle brand. Mainstream competitors like Bon Amon and even premium artisan jam makers offer products that cost a tenth of what American Riviera Orchard demands. Consumers are not stupid, they can do basic math. And the math says Meghan's jam is not worth 5 times more than everyone else's. The fundamental disconnect at the heart of this pricing disaster is the gap between Meghan's brand positioning and her price strategy. She wants to be seen as relatable, as the girl who escaped the royal fishbowl and just wants to live authentically among regular people. Yet she prices her products like she is running a boutique in Monaco for oligarch wives. You cannot simultaneously market yourself as down-to-earth and approachable while charging $200 for Valentine's Day jam packages. The cognitive dissonance is giving consumers whiplash, and their response has been to simply not buy anything. Sources within the retail industry have been blunt about the problem. One consultant said you cannot build a mass-market lifestyle brand on luxury pricing without luxury credentials. Another noted that Meghan seems to think her celebrity alone justifies premium prices, but that is not how consumer behavior actually works. People will pay more for a name they trust and admire. Whether Meghan has cultivated that trust is very much up for debate. But the products themselves have another problem that no price cut can fix, and the quality control issues have become internet legend. Even if Meghan slashed her prices tomorrow, she would still face a credibility crisis rooted in the actual quality of her products. Viral videos exposing the jam's questionable consistency have spread across social media like wildfire, with purchasers documenting what can only be described as a runny mess. These are not nitpicky critics looking for problems. These are people who paid good money expecting artisanal quality and instead received a spread so thin it practically pours out of the jar. One video showing the jam's liquid consistency has been viewed millions of times, and the comments section reads like a roast session for the ages. The wickless candle scandal deserves its own special mention in the quality control catastrophe. Customers who purchased candles from the line reported receiving products without actual wicks, meaning they were literally impossible to light. A candle without a wick is not a candle. It is an expensive scented paperweight. The fact that this defect made it past whatever quality control systems exist at American Riviera Orchard tells you everything you need to know about the operational competence behind this venture. One buyer described the experience as almost artistic in its incompetence, and honestly, that description feels generous. Then there are the flower sprinkles, which have earned the charming nickname Death Flowers among Meghan's legion of critics. These dried flower decorations, meant to add an elegant touch to baked goods or table settings, have been mocked for their wilted, lifeless appearance. Instead of evoking a romantic Montecito garden party, they conjure images of funeral arrangements left out too long in the sun. The aesthetic that Meghan clearly intended to convey has been utterly lost in translation between concept and execution. The cumulative effect of these quality issues has been devastating for consumer trust. In the age of social media, one bad review can reach millions of people before a company even knows there is a problem. Meghan's products have generated hundreds of negative reviews, unboxing disasters, and mocking videos that have permanently damaged the brand's reputation before it ever had a chance to build momentum. Once consumers decide a brand produces garbage, it is extraordinarily difficult to change that perception. You essentially have to start over with a new name and hope nobody remembers what happened the first time. Industry observers have noted that the quality problems suggest fundamental issues with sourcing, manufacturing, or both. One food industry consultant pointed out that consistency problems in jam production, usually indicate issues at the production facility level that require serious intervention to fix. Another noted that the wickless candle situation suggests either a terrible supplier or non-existent quality inspection processes. Either way, the problems run deeper than any marketing campaign can address. But Netflix's patience with these failures has reached a breaking point, and what is happening behind closed doors reveals the true cost of this partnership. The staff at Netflix who have been tasked with managing the Meghan relationship are reportedly fed up after years of frustration. According to multiple sources, employees have grown tired of trying to get Meghan to actually promote her own products in any meaningful way. The expectation when Netflix invested in her lifestyle brand was that she would leverage her massive platform and celebrity status to drive consumer interest. Instead, sources describe a pattern of minimal effort, missed opportunities, and an apparent belief that products should sell themselves simply because her name is attached. The contrast with other Netflix talent could not be more stark. When the streaming giant partners with celebrities on product ventures or branded content, those celebrities typically throw themselves into marketing efforts. They do press interviews, they post on social media, they show up to events and shake hands and do the unglamorous work of actually selling things. Meghan, according to insiders, has treated promotion as somehow beneath her, as if merely designing a jam label should be enough to guarantee millions in sales. One source described the attitude as expecting the red carpet treatment for products that nobody asked for. The irony of Ted Sarandos' previous comments has not been lost on observers. The Netflix co-CEO once publicly stated that Meghan could shift anything, expressing confidence that her star power would translate into commercial success. Those words have aged like milk left out in the California sun. Now, according to reports, Netflix executives just want her to shift the unused stock out of their warehouses before it becomes an even bigger embarrassment. The gap between expectations and reality could not be wider. Reports that Netflix has cut ties with the Sussexes, or is in the process of doing so, have circulated for months. While the exact status of their business relationship remains somewhat murky, industry insiders note that a first-look deal in Hollywood often means very little in practical terms. It is essentially a polite way of keeping someone on the books without any obligation to actually produce anything together. The real question is whether Netflix will continue funding ventures like American Riviera Orchard, and the warehouse situation suggests that answer is almost certainly no. Sources within Netflix describe a company that has learned a very expensive lesson about celebrity partnerships. The streaming giant reportedly paid the Sussexes around $100 million for content and associated ventures, and the return on that investment has been questionable at best. One insider put it bluntly, saying they paid royal prices and got reality television quality. Another described the partnership as a cautionary tale that will be studied in business schools for years to come. But the financial implications for Netflix reveal the true scale of this disaster, and the numbers involved are genuinely staggering. When you start calculating the approximate value of unsold inventory sitting in those Hollywood warehouses, the financial picture becomes genuinely alarming. 650,000 items, even at modest wholesale values, represent millions of dollars in tied-up capital. If we conservatively estimate an average production cost of $10 per item across the product range, we are looking at $6.5 million just in manufacturing expenses. Factor in packaging, shipping to warehouses, storage costs, and marketing materials, and the total investment easily climbs into the $8 to $10 million range, all of it sitting unsold. Netflix's position as an investor and partner in this venture means they are presumably on the hook for a significant portion of these losses. The streaming giant did not get into the lifestyle product business expecting to give away jam to their software engineers for free. They expected returns. They expected Meghan's supposed star power to translate into actual sales that would justify the partnership. Instead, they are watching money evaporate, while storage rooms overflow with merchandise that has become a punchline. The speculation about Netflix potentially forcing As Ever to shut down entirely is gaining steam among industry analysts. At some point, the math simply stops working. Every month that inventory sits unsold represents additional storage costs, insurance expenses, and opportunity costs of capital that could be deployed elsewhere. Perishable goods like jam and wine have shelf lives that are actively ticking down. The longer this situation continues, the more product will need to be written off as expired and unsellable. One analyst described it as watching money burn in slow motion. Sources familiar with Netflix's internal discussions suggest that patience has run out. The company reportedly gave Meghan multiple opportunities to course correct, to adjust pricing, to increase promotional efforts, to do something that would move product. The response, according to insiders, was a mixture of excuse-making and blame-shifting that failed to address any of the fundamental problems. One executive allegedly described the situation as the most frustrating partnership failure in the company's history, though that claim is difficult to verify. The bleeding shows no signs of stopping. Every day those warehouses remain full. The losses compound. Every employee who walks out with free jam represents a sale that will never happen. Every negative review that circulates online makes future sales less likely. The financial trajectory is pointing sharply downward. and nobody seems to have a viable plan to reverse it. But the real question is whether Meghan can survive what is coming next. And her fundamental brand problem runs deeper than any business failure. Recent YouGov polling has delivered numbers that should terrify anyone invested in Meghan's commercial success. She now ranks among the least popular members of the extended royal family in both British and American surveys. Let that sink in for a moment. The woman who was supposed to modernize the monarchy, who was welcomed with open arms as a breath of fresh air, has become one of the least liked public figures in the very markets where she needs to sell products. You cannot build a lifestyle empire when your target consumers actively dislike you. The problem is what marketing experts call the likability, relatability, trustability trifecta. Successful celebrity brands require all three. Consumers need to like the person enough to want to support them. They need to feel that the person is somehow relatable to their own lives and values, and they need to trust that the person is being authentic, not just cashing in on their fame. Meghan's polling numbers suggest she is failing on all three counts with large segments of her potential customer base. The pattern of failed ventures has become impossible to ignore. The Spotify deal, which was supposed to produce groundbreaking podcast content, fizzled after producing minimal output and generating insider complaints about Meghan being difficult to work with. The animated series project was scrapped before it ever saw the light of day. And now the lifestyle brand is drowning in unsold inventory. At what point does a pattern of failures stop being bad luck and start being a reflection of the person at the center of all these ventures? The contrast with Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop is instructive. Whatever you think of Goop's products or marketing, Paltrow has been transparent about her business. She shares sales figures, discusses challenges openly, and has built a brand that consumers feel they understand. Meghan, by contrast, has refused to share any meaningful sales data, while her team makes claims about products flying off shelves. This secrecy breeds suspicion, and suspicious consumers do not open their wallets. Industry observers have been blunt about Meghan's commercial prospects. One brand consultant noted that she has burned through more goodwill in 3 years than most celebrities accumulate in a lifetime. Another suggested that her only path forward might be to completely reinvent her public persona, though how exactly she would do that remains unclear. But where does this leave Meghan and Harry's American dream? And what happens when the money stops flowing? The warehouse chaos represents more than just a failed product launch. It is a symptom of a larger brand failure that threatens the entire Sussex commercial enterprise. The narrative they sold when leaving the royal family was that they could not only survive outside the palace but thrive in ways the institution would never allow. They positioned themselves as entrepreneurial spirits being held back by an outdated system. Instead, they have produced a string of expensive failures that suggest the royal system was providing more support than they ever acknowledged. Speculation about where these products will ultimately end up has become a popular topic among royal watchers and retail analysts alike. The most likely destination for 650,000 unsold items is the discount retail circuit. TJ Maxx, Marshalls, outlet malls, and discount websites may soon be flooded with American Riviera orchard merchandise at drastically reduced prices. Nothing says aspirational luxury quite like finding a Duchess's jam jar in the clearance bin next to off-brand candles and discontinued beauty products. The brand positioning Meghan has worked so hard to cultivate will be destroyed the moment her products show up at dollar stores. One has to wonder whether Harry even knows the full extent of this disaster. Reports have consistently suggested that Meghan handles the business side of their ventures, while Harry focuses on his passion projects and advocacy work. If that division of labor is accurate, Prince Harry may not fully grasp how much money has been invested in inventory that is now being given away for free to Netflix employees. The conversations in that Montecito mansion must be interesting these days, assuming they are having honest conversations at all. The big picture question hanging over all of this is whether Meghan can reinvent herself once again. She has done it before, transitioning from actress to royal to American refugee to wellness entrepreneur. But each reinvention gets harder as the public accumulates more data points about who she really is and how she actually operates. The Goodwill bank account is nearly empty, and every failed venture makes a withdrawal from an already overdrawn balance. The 650,000 items sitting in Netflix warehouses tell a story that no press release can rewrite. They represent misjudged demand, overconfident production, pricing disconnected from reality, and a fundamental misunderstanding of what consumers actually want. They are physical evidence of a business built on celebrity rather than competence, on assumptions rather than market research, on ego rather than strategy. Whether Meghan can recover from this exposure remains to be seen, but the odds are not looking good. Do you think Netflix will finally cut Meghan loose completely? And what happens to the Sussex brand if they do? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.